Good evening, young warriors. The mission. Look, every time I've met with you, I try to say the same thing differently. Thinking like, oh, maybe they'll get it. Well, here, get this. My commitment to you is I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you. As young men, as young women, as young warriors, to establish an unprecedented commitment towards the pursuit of your own personal excellence. Talking the traits of compassion, of resilience, of honor, of your character. Because it is my belief that the success, the excellence that you desire, that you seek, will be attracted to you by the person you become. Young warriors, my youngest son and I, we have a covenant. We have a pact where I train him. And we call this his own personal rite of passage. Think of this as yours. Young warriors, I've spent a couple of times talking about Jaws, the movie Jaws, and the hardship that Steven Spielberg had to endure. Why is this a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because the movie Jaws was slated in 1974 to be a filler. It was a low-budget movie that was supposed to connect the summer's hits and keep moviegoers busy until the next big summer hit came out. What happened was Spielberg, his star, Bruce, the shark, malfunctioned when put in the water of the Atlantic at Martha's Vineyard. He had a problem. No amount of money would change the leading actor's mind. He was stuck. He had a king-size problem. In fact, it was Richard Dreyfuss, the actor, who said, "I've never seen anybody face as much adversity as I saw Steven face during the making of Jaws." Last time I spoke, I talked of his perseverance, his resilience, not giving up. But today I'm going to close the Jaws thing, and I'm going to talk about his thinking. Now again, I'm going to ask, why do you think that this is so important? Well, I mentioned the movie was a low-budget movie. It had a budget. It was $3.5 million. 1974. That was a big deal. It was scheduled to be shot in 55 days. Because of the hardships, because of the malfunctioning shark, the budget and the days grew. Instead of $3.5 million, the final budget was a little over $8 million. Instead of 55 days, it took 159 days to complete. I mean, it was such a mess that the cast and the crew were always talking and making fun, referring to the movie Jaws as flaws. Everybody was laughing, except Spielberg. Spielberg was facing just a monotonous problem. Probably the largest dragon he's ever faced in his life. He had to find a solution. So instead of thinking like everybody else, what he did was he had to go rogue. He went dark. He went below the problem and found a solution. What's large about that is as you read about any great accomplishment, I don't care if you're talking about Steve Jobs, I don't care if you're talking about Bill Gates, it doesn't matter. What you will find that any problem that had to be solved followed this advice. And that's basically that the best solution, the best idea, the best answers are usually located somewhere between rarely and not where everybody else is looking. Everybody else is looking. Spielberg understood this, and he went dark. He got away from the white noise, and he peeled this thing. He field dressed this problem down to what he knew was true, what was right, what he had to work with, what he could control, more importantly, what he could not control. He took a page out of Alfred Hitchcock's book, realizing that less is more. The less you see, the more you get. And by not seeing the shark until almost an hour and a half into the movie, it scared everybody into the theater, me included. Young warriors, I want to challenge you. Now, I know a lot of this stuff is going to be repeated. Look, I'm not going to be out here. I mean, I've told you, I'm not going to be out here and try to educate you and teach you anything. In fact, everything that I say, I mean, you should already know. That's great. But I don't want you to treat it like a trivia game. Like, oh, I've got this knowledge. That's great. What I want to do is I want to encourage you to act upon it. To act upon it. This thinking, like Spielberg, it doesn't take much, but it does take one to act. Separate yourself. Get away from the white noise. Go dark. Go rogue. And think up solutions to these problems that dismantle most people. Here's my challenge. I've got a couple layered challenge. My whole goal is I come out, I make one point, and I send you off on your way out with a challenge. Here I'm going to kind of maybe layer it a little bit. My challenge to you is back at the beginning when I talked about the virtues of excellence. Humility is right up there, probably one of the leading ingredients. Practice it. Practice it. And understand that knowing something, hearing it, memorizing it, learning it in school, reading it in a book, that's great. But unless you're doing it, unless you're acting upon it, it doesn't matter. My challenge is to act. To be like Spielberg, or you can use any example you want. They're out there, they're all over the place. Find somebody who's accomplished something. Find somebody who's faced hardship. I'm not talking, if you're into computers, I'm not talking about the dude down at Radio Shack. I'm talking about Gates. I'm talking about Jobs. Set your standard high. Don't settle. Go rogue with your thinking. Go dark. Separate yourself and do something great. Here's my quote, and I'm going to send you on your way. It was Booker T. Washington, the author, the orator. I think he was a consultant to numerous presidents, at least for like 25 years. Very wise man. Booker T. Washington said this. He said, "The world cares very little about what a man or a woman knows. It does, however, care about what the man or woman does. That's what counts." Young warriors, I've got to challenge you, to challenge yourself to understand that you can be an average person doing some things correctly, doing the few things that matter. You can do extraordinary things. I don't care if you're from Streator. I don't care if you're from Saybrook. I don't care if you're from Portland, Oregon. You've got to see this. You've got to understand this. My challenge is to you is to change this world. Start with where you're at. Make yourself a young man, a young woman of personal excellence. And understand that excellence is not what you do. Excellence is who you are. I'm out.